the ultimate patio cover. DIY project, pretty easy, pretty simple and straightforward to do, where you're using your own materials, you're using better materials than you could find in one of those kits, and you can save a lot of money, and you can customize it to the space you want. So this video, it is a tutorial like my normal woodworking videos, giving you lots of tips and tricks how to do it and how to pull this off solo, right? One person. I did have my 10-year-old son kind of help a little bit, but pretty much just with different ladders, you can pull off a big build like this. Lots of possibilities, lots of ideas. Use those timestamps down below if you want to skip around. But lean-to patio cover, gazebo, outdoor kitchen, here you go. And before we get into all the good stuff, I do want to just say, obviously, I might be doing some sketchy ladder work. Use your common sense, right? Don't do anything too sketchy with the ladder. Actually, those scissor lifts, you can rent those for about, if you need to borrow one of these ladders, you can rent one of those scissor lifts, which makes things way easier, safer. I use those for my parents' siding. Great option. Other thing to consider is building codes and HOA. So just check your local building codes if you have to do it. This is not attached to the house at all, so I don't have to worry about the codes, and we have no HOA where I live, so it's not an issue. But you do want to consider those things before embarking on such a project. All right, let's jump in. All right, gonna start you off with a little before and after. So this is our backyard, this is the patio. Each year we use one of these pop-up canopies. Not really, great for the environment. They don't last long, and we just need more covering. We need more of the patio to be covered. You can see it does slope quite a bit. So ideally, right, you would pour a new slab or you'd have everything level. Well, we didn't have that here, but we made it happen, right? This is super custom. All right, loads of materials. My gosh, so many things to choose from. I just decided to do everything pressure treated. Now, obviously, that's a lot more expensive, but we build it to last. And again, you could buy one of these kits, and it's going to come with subpar materials. If you're getting the pressure treated stuff, it's going to last forever and actually looks good. You don't have to do any kind of maintenance in the future with the wood or with wood finish. As far as the foundation, best case scenario is concrete, a concrete slab. Now, we had this patio, this aggregate, not a ton, but enough to do a couple anchors. And so here, I'm using a hammer drill to pre-drill everything out and then using these brackets to attach my 4x4 posts. You certainly could do 6x6 or bigger posts. I think 4x4s were great, strong enough. You do want to make sure that you vacuum up any of that concrete dust to make sure your brackets and any of the screws attach. You could use a hose to spray it out. Just know that that concrete mix is going to get everywhere and it could stain some stuff. But once you get it clean, once those holes are good and clean, then you can attach these brackets. And these brackets are just amazing, right? And it's getting everything secure. You don't have to dig through. Just go right into the concrete. Might have to come back with a hammer drill a couple times just to get the right depth for whatever hardware. If you're looking for, links down below to all the different accessories and brackets that I used. But that thing's solid. It's secure, and it can just slide that 4x4 post right in. Obviously, we're going to make sure it's plumb later. Okay, I always try my videos to try new things and show. This is really cool. Not for this project. So this is a ground screw that would work for a fence post. It would work for a mailbox. But the idea was there. I'm like, okay, we can get this into place and we can, you crank it in. It gets pretty low. But if we're talking an 8 to 10 foot, even a 12-foot post that's that high, you need it to be way deeper in the ground and you got to do concrete. So I started this way thinking, oh yeah, we can shim it up. Later in the video, you'll see how I did have to correct this just to make it more secure. So if you don't have concrete, if you don't have a slab, definitely dig the hole, put in the concrete, make it happen. But we'll get back to that later. All right, so we started thinking we could put up, a section clamped together like this. Yeah, no, even with the ladder, there was just no way. That was not happening. And so I did one at a time. Here, I do have my son. He did help a bit here and there, but ladders really were key to make this project happen. And so a lot of the work you're going to see, hey, I'm just moving a ladder to a ladder. Getting the posts in, some of those brackets, I did want to kind of trim it off. You want a tight fit, right? You want a tight fit once you put that post in, but sometimes I did have to trim that to get in place. All right, you want to make sure everything is plumb. So your posts are upright. So they're level horizontally, but they're also plumb going upright. Now you can see I have a second ladder. My gosh, this really changes things. So if you have a second ladder, that really helps. It's an extra set of hands, or like I mentioned earlier, a scissor lift would be huge in this situation. If you're able to do that, I highly recommend that for all the things. It would make this much quicker. But the two ladders really works, especially if they're similar sizes like this. It can just kind of hold things in support. So I started with the posts first. You can see some were really secure if they were in the concrete. The other ones that had those ground screws, not as secure. Now I did get everything safe and secure eventually, but it did take some extra supports here. So as far as dimensions, plans, no plans really here. Just went off a lot of other designs. Basically, we have 10-foot sections going across, and then it's 12 feet out from the house. It's not attached at all to the house. So some people will add a header and attach it to the house, but then you got to get into a lot more building codes and other issues. So ours is just fully, separate from the house, so it could be broken down if you wanted to. We never plan to. But anyway, you're going to want to make sure everything is square and level. So I'm moving fast here. But you kind of get the idea as I'm just moving all these posts around, checking that it's square and level, kind of getting an idea. I will slow down in a bit here just so for you to really see kind of the design and how I went about it. Other idea is using boards like this as kind of a clamp. So have a 2x4 down below and then a board on top to get the height that you want. Really, again, you're going to customize it to your space. Now, obviously, if you have a flat section, you can pour a new pad, well, you're good to go. But most of us, we're just trying to add some covering on the back of our home. Like this. A quick tip is adding screws ahead of time. A lot of us know this. Once you get these really heavy, especially these pressure treated boards, they're soaking wet. Once you get them up in the air, you want to move quickly, and so if the screws are already there, it makes quicker work. Here you can see those two ladders come across. Don't worry, I did double check. The angle is off here. It doesn't look level. It is. Yeah, you just want to make sure everything's level and square. I'm using lots of great torque screws. Really helps with the impact driver, getting everything nice and tight. No shortage of screws here. This is not fine woodworking. Like what? I mean, who am I kidding? My work's not fine woodworking most of the time anyway. But we're getting everything nice and square. All right, right here, I'm actually coming with a jigsaw and I'm trimming my posts. Now, certainly you could do this ahead of time. You could cut your posts ahead of time, but especially if you're digging, into the ground, you don't know exactly the height. And here I had a lot of slope, so I figured it would just be easier for me to put all my posts in, get all my height, everything is pretty secure, and then measure. I used some laser levels. I did a lot of measurements. So my back height is around 12 feet tall. And then my front, sloping down into the yard, is just under 10 feet. And so the slope really depends on where you live. I live in Western Washington. We don't have a lot of snowfall. If you live where a lot more snowfall, you're going to need to give yourself a lot more slope for that snow. So once you got your height, I'm going to go ahead and measure the distance here. Now, obviously, you could do some math, do some geometry, figure out your hypotenuse. I did that, but I also wanted to measure and just get a feel for how long this post. Now, here, I actually had 16-foot boards. It's just over 12 feet. I ended up going with just over 13 feet. I wish I'd gone, I already had these 16-foot boards, doing a little bit longer because eventually, spoiler alert, I'm going to extend it a little bit more with a little bit more roofing. That's going to come up soon. But anyway, you got a slope there. You can see my slope. That works for my region. I am going to have to get, one of those really cool long snow shovels to pull it. That works well. There's 30-foot pole ones, lots of options, but definitely take that into consideration for snowfall. All right. Obviously, you do not have to have a miter saw. You can do this whole project with a circular saw, but a miter saw is going to make quick work of it. These are not angled cuts at all. They're just square cuts about 13 feet, and I'm just getting the angle, and I'm matching everything exactly so. That's why I cut everything on site after it was up to get the exact height. And so these are 2x6s, and I'm putting them up right on either side. So I have 2 on each set of posts. So there's a total of 6 of these over those three sections. You could do some math, and you could you know, do them like traditional roofing, other ways to do this. But I'd seen several others do, you know, pergolas like this and this style of a lean-to build, and I thought that that would be simple, less math, and so there's multiple options. So obviously, I'm a teacher. I'm a 5th grade teacher. I'm a woodworker. So some of you are watching this like carpentry background, engineers, like, oh my gosh, well, wait till the end. But I'm all for it. Honestly, if you have feedback, ideas, chime in the comments. How you go about it. For those of you who do this for a living on the regular, this is just a DIY backyard project. You know what, as long as it's constructive criticism, I'm all for it, just, you know, to help others who are doing a project like this. All right, so now I'm adding these stretchers across. Now you can see that's a big span. That's a 10-foot span there. And so in retrospect, probably wanted to have a little bit more support, which I will get to in a bit. But for me, this is primarily, the metal roof is going to be shade, it's going to be rain. We do not get a lot of snowfall here. So if you have, you know, any regular snowfall, you don't want to add some more supports. And I do add some more supports later, but you do want to take that into account as you're planning for these spans. Just overbuilding is not a bad thing when it's above your head. And now for the sponsor. I'm just kidding. There's no sponsor for this video. Normally there would be a sponsor. We would put a little plug in here or different things. Obviously there are some affiliate links down below you can check out. But wanted to take this quick second. Normally you'd skip ahead. Hold out real quick. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel, 6'8" Woodworks. It's all about seeking justice, loving mercy, walking humbly. If you want to read more about my family story, you can check out our website. But you know, foster care, orphan care, other social justice issues, really important to my family as we fostered and adopted our sons and just kind of in that world. And so for this point, instead of doing a little sponsor, just want to give a shout out to one organization. You know, all the sales when we do you know, products and sell cutting boards and stuff like that, we give proceeds to quite a few different organizations. So this is a pay it forward moment. Instead of like clicking on the link to go buy some tool, which you can do because, you know, we do that, you know, consider a local organization. Now there's a lot of different organizations, but one in particular is called Bridge Receiving Center. And so as we went into foster care as foster parents, it's just a crisis everywhere. So if you're watching this internationally, I'm sure this is an issue for you wherever you're at. But here in Washington State, right, the number fluctuates, about 10,000 kids in foster care. A lot of times they're going to make a placement for a kid and they just don't have enough foster parents. And so they send these kids to hotels, or where we live in Western Washington, you know, we took in one placement, they were gonna send her all the way over to Yakima, which is quite a ways away from her family. And there's just such a broken system, right? There's so many layers in foster care and some real hard. And a lot of times, yeah, actually the best case is for kids to get reunited with their families, for them to get the help they need. And that was the case with one of our foster placements. And so anyway, Bridge Receiving Center, what they do is once a kid is thrown into foster care, or that's going to be, you know, a known thing, we really want to be mindful about where you place a kid. And so more disruptions is very harmful, very traumatic to a kid if you move them from home to home. And so this is a place locally where bring in kids, kids can kind of like, you know, kind of figure out the story and figure out what's going on. They get the care they need, they get the counseling, they get all the wraparound services they need. And if it looks like the kid is going to be in foster care for a longer period of time, you can make a more informed decision so the kid is placed close by, so they could maybe still have family visits. They're not torn from their community, their school, or their program. And so this is one. If you want to learn more about Bridge Receiving Center, you can check out the link down below. It's one our family loves to support. Maybe you want to support that one, or maybe start up a program like that in your area. I could go on and on about this forever. I know you're mostly here for the woodwork, but really 6'8" Woodworks, that's what we're striving to do. And so if just a little bit, maybe for this organization or another organization like this, you consider it makes a huge difference. So huge need, whatever your passion is, whatever your need is, you know, consider, you know, don't wait for Black Friday or Giving Tuesday, you know, do it now. Just trying to live generous as much as possible. So this video, all the ad revenue, all what we got coming from this video, we're gonna go into that organization and keep trying to push it forward. trying to pay it forward as much as possible. So anyway, check out that organization, or just chime in here if you have a similar organization locally that really impacts. Foster care has been our story again, as we fostered our older sons and then eventually adopted them. But passionate about it, and so thanks for listening to this part if you didn't skip ahead. All right, back to the build. And time for the roof. So we have some corrugated metal here. These are just long sheets that we got from Home Depot, along with all our other wood. Easy to find at any home center. There's a couple different options. We had briefly considered the clear plastic. Let the light in. If that's an issue, you can make yourself some skylights. For us, I don't want to look up and see the mildew and like the mold and have to get up on this roof ever again. And so I think it's just a clean look. I've done quite a few projects with this, and it is going to get discolored on the top, but on the underside, it's going to look pretty for years. And so you're just adding these special screws, the sheet metal screws that go from metal to wood, and they work great. Just really take your time with it. Maybe watch a couple videos on that just to make sure once you're up there on the ladder up high, you do it right, because you do not want any leaks. I did have a couple whoopsies and just picked up some leak material from Home Depot as well. Plug those all up. Spoiler alert, no leaks. It's great. We had a couple days of rain, and it's held up great. Anyway, you're just doing that first panel. So important that you get that very first one locked and centered, because everything else, square, everything else will be off, obviously. But when you're up on that ladder, sometimes you're rushing. Take your time, get that first one on just right. So inevitably, you're probably going to have to make some cuts. Something I've used in the past with this corrugated metal is a metal cutting blade with a circular saw. This is a great option. So here I'm switching over to the metal cutting blade. And then what you can do is you can cut multiple sheets at the same time. So here I think I have 11 different sheets, and I'm clamping them all together, and then I'm marking off where I need to cut it on that 8-foot panel, and I'm getting a clean cut. Now you could use a track saw, but you would have to switch to a blade. This is just a little jig that Craig makes that you can use with your circular saw. Make sure you can see really quickly there I switched to a face mask. You do want to have a face mask because that that shrapnel goes everywhere, but it's a really clean cut. Just one cut. I got all through those, and so it's a nice tip, especially if you plan on doing a fair amount with this corrugated metal. Of course, you can use aviation snips or other things like this. These work great. Just a little bit more time or laborious, but these work great. If you've never used them before, they're pretty satisfying. But this is thin gauge. This isn't super thick gauge steel. But it cuts through just like that. So whatever way, but you probably are going to have to make some cuts. You don't want too much of an overlap. I just didn't have enough room. I could have done the full 8-foot sheet on top. There was no room for me to reach down where I would do my overlap. Typically, you want to overlap a couple of the ridges, or 3 or 4 inches here. And so I've already done that first section that you see closer to the yard, and now I'm doing that back section to the house. You got to get it right, because I'm never getting up on this roof. It's not going to support. I mean, it would support my weight, and I did, but I don't plan to, and I don't want to plan to. But it works well. So take your time, and you'll get it up there, and you got yourself a roof. So at this point, or you could do it before you put in the roof, you do want to put in some 45-degree supports. Again, with this whole thing, you can overbuild it and add a ton more supports. But at this point, I would recommend some supports. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these on the other side, and then we'll attach a 2x4. A couple places, it makes sense to use something like that, that you would slide the 2x4 in. Can mount it up like that. So these are 2 options that I'm going to use. You can use the links down below to check it out more. Excuse me. Another option, you can just buy these right at your home center. Spray paint them, get them a color you want. This is a big plate. I'm going to use between these two 2x6s. So that's another option. Other option is you can use these really, really long screws and just cut the wood, and you don't need to have any kind of bracket. And then you would just drill this up as you have your piece in at that angle, right? Imagine this is a 2x4, it would just go in a lot deeper. So some of these bigger ones, that's another option. Let's go ahead, add some supports, add some brackets, some more strength. So here I'm doing my first 45-degree cut. So first angle cuts of the build so far, just about 45 degrees. Now you can make these a lot longer, kind of look for the look. If you have a lot of experience and you want to chime in here about like what is the distance proportionate, what you have here. These were all about 2 feet to 3 feet long. For my design, this is how it worked where, it's flush on one side and then attaches here, but everything is getting fastened with really heavy duty screws. And so for the most part, it's 2.5 inch screws, really, really high end screws. Sometimes I did use some 4 inch screws or those really longer lag bolts where it made sense, but this is tying everything in together and it's just getting stronger and stronger. And this is just adding, again, more support for the upper section, which then supports the roof, and it all gets in there. Some 4x4 supports. Again, miter saw is great for this. That really helps. That 12-inch blade is fantastic. You can get a full cut through. Some 4x4 supports on the post itself. Again, if you want to be super overbuilt, you could do 6x6 posts. So here's one of those brackets that works for a 4x4. This is a great application of where you could use those really long 6, 8, 10-inch lag screws to work your way. Again, like earlier, add the screws ahead of time. This is what I found to be most helpful. Add it in that bracket ahead of time and then just kind of got it into place. So here I got the center supports, but then this is just, again, adding a little bit more structure. And maybe down the road, I'm going to add some more things in here. I wanted to overbuild it and just add as much structure for peace of mind for me. So here, got some 2x4 supports, just adding ahead of time. Most of those, just went up really, really quick and easy. Here, again, just more supports. There is a certain level of aesthetic. It kind of looks pretty too. So that black really, the powder coated black really looks nice, but supports. Okay, remember I tried to do that cutesy thing with those screws, those ground screws. I agree that they're great and that still might be helpful, but you really do want to go with some concrete, right? Concrete is just tried and true. And so I added a bonus support here, about 6 feet. I went down 2 feet. I could have gone a little bit deeper, but I had a pre-existing foundation down here. But it worked. And so this is a rock solid post that's not going anywhere. I tied it in, and then over here I did another little post. It's just about 2.5 feet up off the ground, 4 feet, but it's just a little bit more anchoring in. So if I did this all over again, I would have done as much as I could, brackets into concrete. The rest I would have added concrete posts. Sometimes, half down, half the post height in concrete. So definitely take your time and get a good foundation for those main posts. And my son's back helping me. All right, he actually is an amazing helper. He just had some day camp and wasn't able to help as much, but he definitely helped with this project a fair amount. Couldn't have done it without him. All right, so I am adding some siding here. And so some of those offcuts earlier from those 16-foot 2x6s, I'm adding here as a kind of a panel. So I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted it to look like, but I did want to have kind of a backdrop for the grills. You actually saw that earlier with that sponsored, not sponsored little bit. But I wanted to add some nice cedar siding. Now, actually, this cedar siding is from my parents' siding project years ago that we saved, and what a perfect application here. So glad, such a beautiful color. So it just depends on your space if it makes sense to add, a wall somewhere. And here, this is fantastic. So it's a feature wall. We're able to, like you saw, I can hang a lot of different things on it. A nice backdrop. So just take into account, like, where's the smoke going to go? It's going to go out there. You did see a vent in there from the house. So I double checked everything. It worked for us, but think that through. All right, here you get a rough idea of the shape of the structure of the patio itself. But eventually, yeah, I had to make a wraparound deck. I needed more space to fit everything under there. This is a weird patio that sloped so much. and had all these curves, but we just needed more room to maximize this space. Stay tuned for more on that, on the deck, on gutters. That's going to come in an upcoming video. Just too much here. We'll save that for another one. All right, here I am adding some more supports. It just was too big of a span there. This is, about 10 feet across. So I did add a 2x4 across, and now I'm adding in some supports to here. Now this is where it actually was some math. But you know what? I wanted to stay true to the no math required. This is easy. So I cut one 45-degree angle and kind of matched it up there, and then I put it flush, and then I just marked it with a pencil to get kind of the angle. And so got it in place, take a look, and then I just threw screws up. So there's no brackets on the top going in. So if you do this type of style, it is a 45-degree angle to start on the bottom, and then it's different at each angle up at the top after I measured down the ladder, measured, cut, and it actually worked really well, and it's very strong. So a couple additions to that feature wall. Again, you kind of already saw it with that little, shout out to the, the charity organizations. But here, I am adding lots of cast iron or powder coated black. I think it ties everything well in. These cast iron hooks were awesome. And then we can have all our cast iron cookware out here. Hey, we got ourselves a new smoker, a new flat top grill. Might as well get some new grill accessories as well. Okay, now here I'm adding some CA glue, some super glue and activator, and some shims on the back of these pipe brackets. Because I'm mounting on cedar siding, there's a bit of an angle, and I want these shelves to be level. Now, if you know of another way to mount brackets on cedar siding like this, let me know. But it's just a bit of a shim that I added in there. It worked. It's not the best, but it's secure, and it got things so it's not too much of an angle up. It made sense for here, but maybe a little tip that helps you if you're trying to do something similar with that tapered, angled cedar siding. All right, so that's a little tip there. All right, lighting is a must. Now, especially if you're doing the galvanized metal like we did here, it is going to get surprisingly dark even on hot sunny days in there. Obviously, I want lighting, because I might do some filming and such in here. However, lighting is really key, and we found just cooking, it's so nice to have lights like this. So you can check out the lights down below. They work great. They're great LEDs, maybe not the best for video, but they work really well. A lot of bright lights. We hooked them up to some remotes, so we can just wirelessly turn them on and off. Great option. And sticking with the theme, yeah, might as well take these old fixtures that still have a green light from Christmas in there, update it, kind of go with it together. These are those dusk till dawn ones, work pretty well. And of course, you got to have some party lighting. It is fantastic at night. So all kinds of possibilities there, and get those bug zappers up. So lots of accessories to this thing that we'll keep adding as well. One thing that I think is actually really helpful is having these shower bars, pull bars. These are ones I used on my boys loft bed build I did last summer, and they work really great. But this is definitely helpful, not just for my family who really needs it, but it's actually helpful for me. It's nice to have these grab bars here and there. All right, another addition is we got a bar cart, a grill cart with this butcher block. Stay tuned for a video on this, doing some really cool butcher block with some hardwoods, all kinds of beautiful colors. Got a video coming on that. And I had to get a little bit of laser in. I have been loving laser, all kinds of laser projects. You can see that on my channel. They're a lot of fun. They blast all kinds of possibilities, but how to do a little bit of laser work, and there's actually going to be a lot more that we'll incorporate eventually. But 6-8 eats. Yeah. Absolutely. 6-8 eats. Gonna do a small channel. It's gonna be just a side thing for fun. It's got this great outdoor kitchen, this great space. Might as well do some cooking out here and make some videos here and there. It's gonna be fun. So here's the space, here's that outdoor kitchen. So this really is an amazing space. It started as a cover, then we added in some more toys, and just a lot of fun. And we've already been using it quite a bit as a family. So definitely look for more content on the outdoor kitchen build, more content on the deck, on gutters, some more siding, more accessories, more projects coming to this space. But this space in particular, we're gonna make a lot of cool stuff. Yes, 6-8 eats. It's just gonna be some fun stuff, right? Making some fun things here, some short, some long, all kinds of different ideas. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that channel out. Subscribe to see more like that. Ideas of what you'd like to see. Woodworker, you know, with the cutting boards and making things like this island. Anyway. Stay tuned for more. Well, thank you for watching. And you know, if this video did provide value for you, please consider subscribing. Normally, we're doing woodworking projects like this, some laser work, some CNC work, just all kinds of different things, but a fair amount of DIY outdoor projects as well. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Until next time.